morning and welcome to the 2017 Jobs Plus Nofa webinar. My name is Jamie Brown and I serve as the program manager for the Jobs Plus program here at HUD. So just really quickly before we go into the presentation today, just wanted to give you some background on the Jobs Plus program. Jobs Plus was conceived in the late 1990s by HUD, the Rockefeller Foundation, and MDRC. The program took a multi-pronged approach to help residents in public housing increase their employment earnings and go to work. This multi-pronged approach had three different components. One was employment and training on site at the development. The second was a financial incentive, and the third was an element called community support for work, which is really residents supporting residents in going to work and neighbor helping neighbor in those work efforts. So the program itself targeted all work-age residents in a development in an attempt to saturate the development and really infuse this idea and concept of work. So the Jobs Plus model was tested in 6 cities, and at the end of the demonstration, and the demonstration had a control group and a Jobs Plus group, and at the end of the demonstration, the folks in the Jobs Plus group were going to work more and their earnings were increasing higher than those who did not have the Jobs Plus program model. So as many of you know, Jobs Plus came to HUD in 2014. We've been awarding grants since 2015, and really, as it came to HUD, it was able to expand nationally. We currently have 24 sites across the country, and we're really looking forward to expanding the program. So we're really excited to offer this Nofa here for you all to apply to, and really look forward to getting in some new applications. So with that, I'll start by going through today's agenda. So the agenda, I really will just kind of walk through the Nofa in a little bit more detail. We'll start with the due date. We'll walk through eligibility. I'll talk a little bit more about the Jobs Plus model, which I just kind of went through, but in a little bit more detail. We'll talk about application submissions, the reporting requirements, and then finally I'll end by going through Appendix A, which is a list of common mistakes. So really quickly, I just want to be clear about what this webinar is not. So this is not like a grants basic how to apply to HUD grants or anything like that. This is really program specific. I encourage you to get familiar with grants.gov, go into that system, get your account active, and really prepare to submit your application prior to the deadline. I suggest sooner rather than later. And in grants.gov, we have several competition-related documents, including the general section, Appendix B, and then some other documents that you'll need for completing the application. I will not be going over those things today. This is really just based on the Nofa requirements and the things that are in there. So with that, just really quickly, the due date. The Nofa applications are due November 17th, 2017. Just before midnight. So, you know, if you will apply at midnight and 30 seconds, we will unfortunately have to throw that application out. We are left to 11:59 and 59 seconds. We cannot accept late applications. So again, familiarize yourself with grants.gov, and just given kind of the tech crashes and some of the stories that I've heard over the past couple years, I really encourage you to go in there well before the deadline and apply so that you can be sure, because grants.gov will provide a confirmation, so that you can be sure that your application was received. So with that, I want to dive into the Nofa eligibility. So there are several eligibility criteria components. There's 3 here and 1 on the other page. So one is size. So at a minimum, your developments need to be 200 non-elderly only households in that particular development. They need to be at least 40% of the households in that development who are non-elderly only must have a member not containing income in the PIC system. And the place criteria is that given the place-based saturation nature of the program, you must have contiguous developments, a single development, or you must show good cause as to why the program can operate in a non-contiguous configuration without, harming those folks in the program. Folks must have equal access to that. So with that, developments that are for scattered sites may not necessarily apply just because there's not enough concentration of those in a particular area to really be able to serve them adequately for this program. And then finally, the criteria for performance. So developments that belong to a non-performing PHA may be eligible to participate provided that HUD has made a determination that PHA has a capacity to oversee the program. And I'll go into this a little bit more in detail later in the presentation. But really, if your agency is on the Public Housing Assessment System list as a troubled performer or is designated a substandard performer based on the FAST score, then you'll really have to go through kind of that additional eligibility criteria piece to show that you can operate this program. So going a little bit more into size, HUD makes the determination on eligibility criteria based on PIC data, and that PIC data was pulled in mid-August. So there must be 200 non-elderly only developments in your proposed Jobs Plus site. We don't make a distinction for disabled in terms of eligibility, but really think about that when you're picking your Jobs Plus site, because if you have a lot of disabled folks, they may not be able, based on, SSI income or other things like that, they may not really be able to increase their earnings or, go to work in a way that would not impact their other benefits that they're getting. So really just think about that when you're trying to consider a development. Really someone in the household must be under the age of 62 for it to be considered a non-elderly only household. So again, unemployment, this is based on the same PIC data we pull consistently for the entire program, and this is at least 40% of households who are non-elderly only show no member earning income in PIC. And this is really important as we get to eligibility determinations just a little bit later. I'll explain. But this is actually a change from last year. We had 50% of households, and we actually lowered it to 40% of households to make the competition a bit more competitive. So with eligibility, with the size and the unemployment criteria, you kind of have two options. So we have an Appendix B, and again, Appendix B is based on our PIC data. We pulled it consistently across the board for all of the public housing developments within the HUD portfolio. And we use the two size and unemployment criteria to weed out potential developments. And so those are what's listed on Appendix B. So if your development is on Appendix B, it's automatically eligible for the program. You also have an option to combine developments and undergo a request for eligibility, which I'll talk about a little bit more. So really, in terms of combining developments, as the PHA, you can propose to combine two developments that don't appear on Appendix B. But you have to remember that parts of developments cannot be combined. It has to be the entire development. And these developments that you propose must meet the size and unemployment criteria. And if these developments are non-contiguous, you must show good cause to why these developments can still operate the program from a central location and remain accessible to all residents. So you may be asking, how do I request an eligibility review? To request an eligibility review, you'll need to submit it to our email inbox, which you can be seen here. And what you'll need to do is you'll need to provide the development name and number from PIC. And this format is found in Appendix B, so really just follow that format. And HUD will use the list that we use to generate Appendix B to do an eligibility review and see if the combination of those developments meet the size and unemployment criteria for those developments. And HUD has committed to responding within 5 days of the receipt of the request. The Nofa has been open for a little over a week, and we've already received a few. And so, these are rolling in. But remember, if you do propose to combine developments, we cannot receive a request for eligibility no later than 20 calendar days prior to the due date of this Nofa. And really, that's for your benefit, knowing that this is a comprehensive and complicated Nofa. It takes a lot of time to get the partnership agreements together and the commitment letters and really write a quality application. And if you're submitting an eligibility review that late, it may not be a quality application. So we really ask you to do some thinking now and figure out which developments you may want if they're not already on Appendix B, and send us that request as soon as possible to that jobsplus@hud.gov email inbox. So again, looking at place, we talked about the 200 households, we talked about the unemployment, and we really want to stress the need for being able to serve residents from a central location, because again, this program saturates the development. Going a little bit more into performance, as I mentioned earlier, those non-performing PHAs can still apply, and the definition of a non-performing PHA can be found in Section 3A of the Nofa. But if you want to apply, you must submit a justification explaining your capacity to manage this Jobs Plus grant despite your non-performing status. And really, if you don't know if you're on the troubled list, you can contact your field office to make that determination. And so really quickly stepping through how we'll make this determination, we're going to work in concert with the Office of Field Operations. We ask that you submit justifications as to why you can do this program, and we work with the Office of Field Operations, and they'll make a pass-fail determination as to if your application can continue on in the scoring process. And based on this, because if a PHA is troubled, there may be some necessary requirements for you to operate the program. You may be required to enter into a recovery agreement, which may include identifying a contract entity to administer the program. And so really, work with your field office to determine if you're on the troubled list, and then if you are on the troubled list, really, submit a solid justification so that we can work with the field office to determine if you will be able to be scored for this program. So with that, I've just concluded the eligibility. I do want to just walk you through the Jobs Plus model in a little bit more detail, so that you have a clear picture before we go into some of the more specifics of the Nofa. So again, the Jobs Plus model has 3 elements to it. It's the employment-related services, a financial incentive, and specifically for this program, our financial incentive is called JPEID. It's the Jobs Plus Earned Income Disregard. I'll talk a little bit more about what makes it special a little bit later. But finally, the other element is this community support for work element. And really, Jobs Plus is, again, a program for all work-able adults in a specific development who are physically and mentally able to go to work. And we classify work-able adults as someone between 18 and 61. And this program is not like some other programs that are limited to the head of households. Anyone in the household between those age ranges can participate in this program and are encouraged to participate in this program. So just really, again, because I think this is different from other programs that HUD offers, the program must be offered to all residents in the development. So you're not able to just say, oh, we only want to work with the most motivated folks in the development. You really must work to cultivate interest among everyone in the development, and really working with people throughout the employment spectrum, from people who have never had a job or who have been out of work for 10 years, or folks who may be potentially underemployed and haven't had any certification or skills training, but when they do receive that, would be able to get better jobs. And really, because of just the complicated nature of this program, you may want to target the program to different audiences or market, based on the type of outreach you're doing for that particular month or couple weeks, to focus on young adults or middle-aged adults, women, parents, older audiences. Really, again, whatever you must do to make sure that everyone in the development knows about the program and has the potential to be served by the program. And so because it's such a vast population that needs to be served, your narrative should include strategies on how you will serve this population. And if you want to target a specific subgroup, you must provide rationale for why you want to target that group, but just remember that the program must be offered to all residents in the development at all times. So transitioning to kind of the second element of the Jobs Plus program model, the employment element, or I guess it's really the first one. Just really quickly want to highlight a few things that we've done in partnership with DOL to really get you started on how you might start going about getting your required MOU together, and gaining a partner or reactivating a partnership with your local WIB. And I'll go into that in just a few seconds, but just to get you started, there's a couple resources here on this slide that I wanted to draw your attention to. There's some various partnerships and toolkits focused on various HUD and DOL programs that really will provide you a step-by-step guidance on how to work together for this specific element of the program. So the employment-related services is critical, right? Because it's called Jobs Plus. We want people going to work. And as a result of that, it's an eligibility criteria. You must partner with your local Workforce Investment Board, WIB, as I was previously calling it, your American Job Center, or One Stop, based on your location or your region. You may call it various different things. Some people call it PICS, but really your local workforce agency. You must have a signed MOU with that local workforce agencies. And this, again, this is critical, and so you must have this to be considered for funding and to move on with the scoring. And really, the program services offered by the local WIB, One Stop, or American Job Center may include, but are not limited to, career exploration, job readiness, resume workshop, certification, rapid reemployment, connection to education and training opportunities for those who want to improve or increase their earnings and may need some training to do so. But in addition to all of that, coaching and everything essentially you might find at a one-stop, but really targeted and focused on the needs of those in the development. In addition to that, we ask that that there's access to computers and phones and other things like that, copy machines, other things, scanners, things that people might need to really be empowered to, improve their resume or have access to these various things so that they can apply for jobs and hopefully start going to work. So the WIB is not the only partnership. The WIB, the American Job Center, or the One Stop, the local workforce agency, is not the only partnership we require. Later on, I'll talk a little bit about the letters that we require, the match letters. And really, this is you finding partners in the community that can provide services. Generally, the Goodwill and the YMCA, and there's a bunch of different agencies already serving populations, but how can you leverage those programs for the Jobs Plus program and really tailor them to the Jobs Plus site? And so we ask that grant funds be used to procure services that are not already available in your community, and that you really just kind of work through the local agencies already doing a lot of this work to provide the services that folks might need. So now I'll talk a little bit about that financial incentive, the Jobs Plus Earned Income Disregard, also known as JPEID. And JPEID is a modification of the regular earned income disregard, but in particular, it must be targeted to all residents who are work able in the development, and they must sign up for JPEID. They must actively say, yes, I want this earned income disregard. Even if they don't participate in the other elements of the program, they're still eligible for this financial incentive. And so, you may be asking, what is the financial incentive? JPEID is 100% disregard of your increased and earned income for the full life of the grant program. And so that means if someone, has a baseline rent of $100 and they get a job and their earnings go up drastically, the grant program will pay the differential increase to the PHA so that you're not losing anything in funding. JPEID, again, is similar to regular EID, but people who have already used up their EID are still eligible for JPEID. Again, it's 100% disregard for the full term of the grant. And so this is a continuous period. There's no stop and starting. And also, there is no incremental decrease over the course of the program. Regular EID, after 2 years, it drops off. After the first year, it goes from 100% to 50%. This disregard is 100% for the full term of the grant. So because JPEID is such a incentive to residents, we ask you to really be able to document the loss to your agency so that you all can reimburse yourself. And to be able to do this, what you'll need to do is calculate both the rent with and without JPEID and provide these calculations to us on a regular basis, both quarterly and before you make your grant draws, your voucher requests that include JPEID, because we want to be able to track this. And again, you should expect to use the Jobs Plus model, even if there are other particular rent incentive models in place. And if there are other models in place, we'll look at them on a case-by-case basis. In some cases, it may not make sense for someone to leave the Family Self-Sufficiency Program, which is known as FSS, if they have a high escrow that they've built up to take JPEID. And so, that's something that your grant manager would talk to you more about, and that you all will talk to your staff more about in terms of advising folks. The final element of the Jobs Plus program model is this community support for work. And I kind of alluded to it earlier. It's really residents helping other residents go to work. And And really, what does this mean for the Public Housing Authority? It's complicated in that, you really need to work to empower your residents. There's a couple different ways you do this. There are, there's community coaches that we ask you to hire, but also in addition to that, it's really how do you work with your residents to really respond to their needs? And so, one of the questions you'll see in the Nofa criteria is, how did you work with your residents via survey or focus groups to really understand the need? And really, I really want to emphasize that because, we have 3 previous rounds of the Jobs Plus grant. We have 24 current sites, and the one thing that I hear most often is, I had no clue that my residents needed all of these services, right? So people come in with a preconceived notion about what residents want or what residents need to be successful, and find out really quickly that they may need something different. And so really this community support for work element is, how can you work with your residents to get and determine what they need to be successful in going to work and or increasing their earnings. And so this is numerous different things, and it looks different everywhere. But really, it's continuously engaging residents and empowering them to be kind of leaders in their community, someone getting a job and being able to tell other people about job opportunities coming up in that space. Or, a lot of, several people may get a job at a warehouse working 3rd shift and things like that, encouraging them to organize a car share or something like that, to where everyone can get to work collectively. Just things like that that really support residents in going to work, and really in a different way, actually. So that's community support for work. The final thing that I wanted to talk about, which is not necessarily program model, but it is quite critical to the program, and it is a change from last year, is that based on kind of our work with the previous cohorts and our work, just really digging through the original demonstration and some of the subsequent information on Jobs Plus, we really wanted to set out some minimum goals for the program that you must meet by the end of 4 years. Our current grantees know this. They're currently operating under this structure, but we felt like it was really important to get into the Nofa and really make it clear the expectations that we have for the program. So our goals are, kind of as follow, and I won't go through what the numbers are, but, we really want to focus on the number of individuals enrolled in JPEID, because we want to make sure that everyone has opportunity and access to increase their earnings and to keep those earnings if their earnings do increase. We also want to really keep a close eye and track the number of individuals completing an intake assessment, because again, we want you not to just work with the 10% that's most motivated, but we really want you to really be digging in and trying to get those other folks who may not traditionally come out to some of the programming and get them assessed and kind of get them working on developing additional skills or resume building or whatever they might need to be successful. In addition to all those things, we ask you to track the number of folks receiving post-assessment services. So again, it's just not good enough to assess someone and say, okay, you've been assessed, we're never going to touch you again. We really want that follow-up to be there, recognizing that not everybody might follow up, but we really want you to be following up with folks, getting them services, making sure that things are accessible to them and that they're getting the support that they need. We also want to see increases in the employment rate of work-able adults. So whatever your baseline is, an increase over that baseline. We also want to see the average earnings of that development increasing over the baseline, because again, we really want to track the number of people going to work, but also, people increasing their earnings. And finally, and we really think this is important, we want you to track the number of assessed residents who have been continuously employed for 180 days or more. So this really gets at the fact that we don't want people necessarily getting temporary jobs, right? We want folks who are getting jobs and continuously going to work and are continuously employed for 180 days or more, because it may be easy to get someone into a temporary job for a few days, but how is that really helping them build their skills or helping them start their path on a career journey, essentially. So we set a lot of metrics around these, and these are kind of our key program metrics. We do have several others that we ask you to track in your reporting, but these are really important because this is what everyone in the program is expected. These are our minimum goals that we ask you to meet when you're given this grant. So with that, I'm going to move on to application submission, and this really just goes into more detail about the application and the expectations around the submission. So just really quickly wanted to point out a few highlights and differences from the previous NOFA. One is that we've added the program goals, which I actually just went over, and the second one is that the rate of unemployment decreased from 50% to 40%, which I've already talked about a little bit, but just really quickly wanted to highlight those for you all. So the application format is pretty standard. It hasn't changed in the past 4 years. It is an application summary. There's several narrative questions for the rating factors 1 through 3. We ask for a map of site, the signed MOU between the PHA and the local workforce agency, implementation schedule, match commitment chart, program budget, summary budget, budget narratives, match commitment letters, which I'll go a little bit more into. And really, we ask you to kind of follow the directions in naming your components so that we can find them a little bit easier and really, expedite the reviewing of all of these applications. And we ask you to limit the size to 12 size font, double space, 1-inch margin. So don't get creative in some of the limitations we ask you. If we ask for 5 pages, it kind of assumes the standard page format. So again, I've talked a little bit about thresholds, but just really wanted to emphasize them here. So timely submission of applications. Again, no late applications will be accepted. You must resolve all civil rights matters before you're eligible for funding. You must meet the eligibility criteria, which I went over, the size, the unemployment, the place, and the performance. And you must have an MOU between the local workforce agency and your public housing authority, signed and dated between the time of the NOFA publication and the time of the due date. So these can't be old agreements or anything like that. These need to be active and current for the Jobs Plus program. And finally, you must have 25% of the requested grant funds provided in match. So with that, I talked a little bit about this when I was talking about employment and training. The MOU is a critical piece. You must have the documentation. It must be dated between the NOFA publication and the due date. You must identify the roles and responsibilities of each agency. We do go through these individually one by one, looking at, kind of the activities you've outlined, the activities the local workforce investment outlined. It must be signed, and again, this has to be current. So if there is currently an agreement in place, you must submit an addendum that specifically references the Jobs Plus program to meet the requirements. If not, you will not pass threshold and your application will not be scored. So just really quickly going over the rating factors, and these are the questions within the NOFA, so I won't go too far into them, but rating factor 1 is focused on capacity, and really we're looking at your capacity to run this program, and this can be up to 15 pages. We ask a number of questions about team role, responsibilities, the makeup, your strategy for providing residents with effective case management, and your past performance with similar programs, both size and scope, in your technical and administrative case ability to provide evidence-based programs, as well as being able to change and do something different potentially if your population calls for it. We'll also, in this section, we ask questions about your capacity to operate a place-based program. So this is where you come in with a map of proposed site, the description of your community, and then details if your sites are non-contiguous, essentially how the program will remain accessible to all residents. We also ask questions on Section 3. In the Section 3 initiative, kind of your history with that, and your ability to connect residents with Section 3 employment opportunities. And finally, in this section, we talk about working with residents, kind of working with residents as team members and leaders outside of traditional resident councils. So how are you empowering your residents in not just like a formalized way, but in other ways that they can contribute to the community? So in rating factor 2, we go into need, and really this is social and economic need. So we ask you to describe the demographics of your residents, talk about the number of work-able folks, the current unemployment rate. We also ask you to outline some of the other programming that you've done to operate employment-related services, talk about the goals and the outcomes of that and what that looks like. So if you already have an existing relationship with your local workforce agency, the perfect place to talk about that here. We also ask you to provide a description of the local employment market, so the number and types of jobs that are available, the skills that residents must have to pursue kind of some of these in-demand jobs, any barriers faced by residents, and then finally, we ask you to really identify, how you have gotten community feedback before applying to this grant, and how you're going to use that feedback to strengthen your application and your program. So rating factor 3, we really focus on soundness of approach, and this is limited to 20-page maximum. Outreach and engagement, how are your residents going to be recruited? How are you going to work with those least likely to participate? How are you going to retain residents throughout a 4-year program and keep them engaged and keep them coming back for training and different classes and things like that? We also ask you to go into a lot more detail about the career and employment training services that are offered. And here in this section, this is a pretty good substantial number of points, so you'll want to pay attention to what services will be offered, how will supportive services be offered, and how will they adapt, again, to the needs of your residents over time. Really want to focus on how you're going to engage the least likely to participate or the least likely to succeed. So what we've seen in a lot of developments is low literacy and numeracy rates. How are you going to engage them early so that they have the opportunity to take advantage of the full 4 years of the program, so you're not getting into year 3 and then finding that there's a huge basic education need, so that you're really working to provide those services sooner rather than later. Working with people across the employment spectrum, and then really identifying some outcome goals, including, number of folks employed, the quarterly employment rates, the folks increasing earned income, and the amount. We also, in the soundness of approach, we have a couple specific goals that we want to identify, financial empowerment and coaching. And again, this is really critical because, you know, your residents who are able to take advantage of the rent incentive will be getting a lot of extra income. And so we want you to have a plan in place to really help them make decisions with those increased earnings, whether it be saving or whether it be investing in additional education or you know, moving out of the development, things like that. And then also, we really want to know how you're going to work with your youth to encourage and prepare them for employment. Just recognizing that, you know, the earlier that you hear those work messages and that they're ingrained, and the earlier that you get opportunity, the more likely you are to be prepared for the workforce. And so really working with those 14 to 17 year olds, many of which who will be 18 by the end of the program, to really prepare them to start working, but also to prepare them to join the Jobs Plus program when they're of age. We also ask you about JPEID, kind of how you're going to administer that program, how you're going to track, how you're going to make sure everyone in the development understands the program and really manage that program, and just project the number of residents who might be participating, as well as the dollar amount that you expect to use of the grant in JPEID. Another element of soundness of approach is community supports for work, and really we want you to talk about your vision for community supports for work. So what does that mean to you, based on kind of your knowledge and what you've read about the program, but also want you to talk about how you're going to involve kind of all the residents in the development, not just the few that you select as community coaches. And again, community coaches are residents who will be hired to really promote the program, encourage the program, find out more, really be your partners in this program to provide feedback to you. And so we want to know how you're going to hire them and train them, and how they'll be employed. So are you employing them directly? Is a partner employing them? And how long is that for? You know, are you looking for 6 months for them to be able to move up and out into different positions? Or are you looking for them to be more long-term? So really more details on what you'll be doing with community coaches, and then a list of proposed outcomes for this element of the Jobs Plus program. Another component that we added to this Nofa, it's not a major component, but it's a question that we feel is critical. We want to know how you're going to manage your data. Again, you know, you saw some of the 6 key metrics that we asked for. We actually have 60 metrics that we track over time and quarterly. And so your data management system is really critical for tracking the success of the program. And so we want to know kind of what thinking you've already done about tracking to make sure we meet those outcomes. We also ask you about program schedule, you know, how you're going to meet some key milestones, how you're going to meet the 6-month startup time frame. You know, there's a lot to do. There's a lot of different components. There's a lot of things that you need to put in place with your partners, but also internally within your organizations. So really identifying and detailing what you'll be doing there to really make sure that the program is ready to start in 6 months, but then also that you have incremental goals throughout, you know, the first year, the second year, third year, and fourth year. We also ask you a lot of details about the budget. So there'll be a detailed budget, a summary budget, which there's a specific form that you'll need to fill out, and that can all be found at grants.gov. We also ask you for a budget narrative. So, you know, specific activity costs based on your best estimate. And these are costs related to program administration, your projections on salary, your program planning, your potential technical assistance, how much JPEID is going to cost. And this really, your budget narrative should really reflect both the funds that you're providing and then the match funds that you'll be receiving. So this is a sample of the summary budget form. As you can see, it's a pretty standard form. It's the one that we've used for the past several years, and we really ask you specifically to identify, the funding for each of the years, and then based on that, how much grant funds are requested, and then how much you're going to leverage and match or in-kind funding based on those different budget line items, and then kind of your total for those different areas. And really, you'll need to fill out kind of the white pieces of the form, and the gray area will be completed by HUD as noted in the form. You should not request more than the grant allows. So the ceiling for the grant is $3.7 million per site. You should not, your total funds requested should not equate to more than that when you're parsing out your budget line items. So again, as I previously mentioned, we ask for match and leverage. And really, this is to show that you have partnerships and that you've engaged your community and that they're ready to help you and support you in this program. And we ask for a 25% match. And we will go through each and every single one of your match letters and verify the commitment. And I'll talk a little bit more about what that means, but it really is critical that your match commitment letters kind of follow a certain format and contain certain things. There are 4 points available for this section, and you can see there's kind of a leverage ratio here. If you just come in with the minimum match, no more than 25%, you'll get 0 points. If you come with up to 50% match, you'll get 1 point. If you come with up to 75% match, you'll get 2 points. 100% of the total ask of your grant funds, you'll get 3 points, and more than 100% match, you'll get 4 points. But all of those points are verified by your match commitment letters. So these letters must be strong, they must be committed by your partners, and I'll go into a little bit of that right now. So your match commitment letters, really, again, these are services that are already available in your community, and we ask that you provide a cover sheet to kind of help us understand what your match commitment is. And so you'll see a sample here, again, adult literacy, asset building, and GED. You see the 2 match and leverage amounts proposed here are a little under $200,000. And we ask that you do this for all of your match commitments, recognizing that with such large grant amounts, there's probably going to be several here, but this is kind of the format. You'll need to tally each of them and provide a total commitment chart for us. So the match commitment letters, and I really am just going to spend some time on this, just emphasizing this because I know a lot of folks struggle with this. And it is, we've gotten better over time, but we really do want to make sure everyone's clear about what this is and why it's important. So the match commitment must be firmly committed, and I'll talk a little bit about what a non-firm commitment looks like. It must be in writing, on letterhead, and it must be signed by an authorized person, which means you must have their title there. If something is signed, Jane Smith, I don't know who Jane Smith is. So you must have, and it must be on letterhead. It has to be a formal letter. It can't be just something that isn't identifiable back to a specific organization. It must be specifically dedicated to Jobs Plus participants. So this is not something that's dedicated to your entire agency or, to the community at large, the county, the city, or anything like that. No, these have to be specific to Jobs Plus participants. And really, to indicate your match commitment, we need the total dollar value of that committed match. And so, here are a couple examples. They're also found within the Nofa But for example, match based on your participant served should be, the number of residents times the cost per resident per year times the number of years of the grant. That would equate your total commitment. You just can't say residents, for 4 years. We don't know what that means. We redo each and every one of these calculations, so it's really important that you identify them. So again, for someone who volunteers staff time for a particular agency, we ask the number of hours per year times their normal hourly rate times the number of year of grants, total match commitment. And then for something that's, say, based on a set resource, we ask for you to give us the monthly rate times the months per year times the number of years per grant. So really, we want you to kind of show your work because we redo all these calculations, and you'd be surprised at how many errors we find or how many just vague statements we find. And so as a result, we're not able to count that towards your match. And really this because the match, the 25% match, is a critical element of the program and it determines your eligibility. I really encourage you all to pay attention here because we've thrown out numerous applications because their match just isn't committed. And when I say not committed, kind of this is what I mean. So it doesn't talk about how it's going to relate to the program. If you say we're going to have several painting slots for Sherman-Williams, and it's a training program or something like that. If you don't specifically say this is a job training program or something like that, you can't assume that we know exactly what that is. And so you must talk about how this Sherman-Williams painting program is going to relate to the Jobs Plus program and essentially how it's going to help people get jobs. We just can't assume what those connections are. And so, again, letters have been thrown out, not based on that example, but just based on examples similar to that, because we don't know what the connection to jobs or to the Jobs Plus program is. Other things that get letters thrown out are, this vague statement around contingent funding. So, we've seen statements like, if we get the grant, we'll dedicate, X number of funds to the Jobs Plus program. If we receive a usual annual allotment from DOL, we'll give you the money to support the Jobs Plus program. You may be a little bit more concrete and say, if the application is successful, we will dedicate funding to the Job Plus program. So you don't have to commit the funding if they don't get the grant, but your commitment can't say, if we get particular funding from an outside source, we will do this. You need to say, we are committing this money if you all receive a grant. And again, letterhead, authorized person, and it must be dated between the time the application opened and the time the application closes. If there is a commitment from the PHA itself, based on its resources and funding, you must have a letter stating what those commitments are and the source of the funding. The source of the funding is really critical. So supportive services may include, but are not limited to, the building space, other infrastructure investments, time and services committed by volunteers, staff time by your partners or the service providers, but not particularly PHA staff time, and the value of the services provided by your partner agencies. Like, for example, if they're providing bus tokens or coins or passes, the value of those. TANF benefits will not be accepted as a resource for leverage. Non-cash services benefits by TANF agencies may be counted. So if someone's going to a training program or something like that, that may be counted. Other than the language that's in the Nofa, HUD does not make a a legal opinion on whether the uses of other federal funding can be used for match, you will need to work with those partners to make that determination on your own. So the final section in the NOFA is kind of the bonus points, and we encourage you to read the general section for requirement, but HUD encourages activities and communities who have preferred sustainability status or are in promise zones. You will get 2 points for this if you can provide documentation for either one of those statuses, the PSS or the promise zone status. But again, read the general section for the specific requirements. There's also HUD Form 2991, the certification of consistency with the consolidated plan. This is in your NOFA. This is not in your grants.gov packet because it's not required for this NOFA. So don't worry about it. We get questions about this all the time. But you do not have to include this form with the NOFA submission. So just really quickly, before we conclude, I did want to talk a little bit about the program reporting requirements. So if you're a successful applicant and you're selected, we do have several reporting requirements, and I alluded to several of them earlier, given some of the metrics and some of the key program indicators that we use. But specifically, we're asking you to report quarterly metrics. And again, I mentioned that there's about 60 of them, and we have a tool. It's really easy to use. You'll be able to use your data management system to take information out of that and put it in this tool. But really, it's all in effort to track the program and track the progress. So, we ask questions about people going into training, people going into basic education classes, people identifying various needs and then actually getting help with those needs and things like that. We'll also ask that you provide an annual narrative report. And this really actually complements your quarterly report. It is more of a self-assessment of how you're doing and provides some time for reflection and potential modification for the coming year. So with that, I just want to really quickly identify a few more resources that might be of assistance as you're preparing your NOFA. So I encourage you to go on to the Jobs Plus webpage. We have a lot of content there from previous conferences and other things that we've done to really help you identify, kind of what has been going on in the Jobs Plus program since its launch in 2015. MDRC, which was the original group that helped conceive the Jobs Plus program, they have some content related to Jobs Plus. They have been working on the program ever since the late 90s and in various iterations, and so they have a lot of good information there that you may want to explore. In particular, they shared a webcast of lessons for responding to our NOFA. This is a couple years old, but I think it still has some good insights there that you all might want to dig into. Despite the fact that this was not sponsored by HUD or asked for by HUD, it's still a good resource that you all may want to look at when preparing for the NOFA. So I just want really quickly, before I close out, just want to identify a list of common mistakes, just because I know how much energy it takes to apply. I know how much energy and coordination it takes to get partner letters, match commitment letters, and all of these things together, get agreements with your partners, and then sit down and respond to all of these questions that we ask for. And I hate to see applications thrown out for just common mistakes. And so really quickly wanted to go through some of these things here so that you can better prepare and get yourself ready to be a competitive applicant for the program. So one of the things that we see is that people fail to meet the match commitment threshold. again, this is huge. And that's why I spent a lot of time kind of talking through. If you need to do so, rewind, kind of go back through those slides and kind of see what I identified. But this was the leading cause of applications failure. So they weren't scored, they did not proceed because they did not meet the match commitment letters. And not only can you find details here in this webcast, but you can also go to section 3B of the Nofa to really see the requirements for the match commitment letters. Another thing that we see missing is the MOU with the local workforce agency. So it's either missing or incomplete, or it's not signed between the dates that we asked you to, or it's not a current commitment for the Jobs Plus program. Just really pay attention to details there as you're getting those MOU letters in place. Another thing that we see, and this is kind of related to the match, a lot of PHAs assume that staff time can be counted in the match letters, but it cannot be counted as part of the match. And so just really be mindful of that. If you are allocating staff and things like that, you can count them as part of the grant budget in terms of what the need will be, but you cannot count them as match. And then again, go on grants.gov and make sure you read the list of common mistakes for that, for grants.gov, SAM registration, just the general grant requirements. Make sure you're aware of that. And again, I can't emphasize this enough. I've heard a ton of horror stories about folks coming in late, applications coming in 30 seconds late, and things like that. But really get on grants.gov, familiarize yourself with that system, and prepare to submit your application 1 to 2 days early, if possible, because that will reduce us having to throw your application out before it even starts going through threshold. And so really encourage you to familiarize and work with grants.gov so that you're prepared to apply and be successful with the Jobs Plus program Nofa. So with that, I'll leave you with our contact information. You can send us an email at jobsplus@hud.gov, and that email inbox is monitored pretty regularly, and we try to get back to you as soon as possible with your questions. That's also the place that you can send your eligibility questions into based on your request to combined developments. But really use that as your resource, and based on competition rules, we'll do our best to answer your questions. We can't give you advice on what to say in your application, but we can just provide some clarifying context if you need it for applying to the program or other things like that. So with that, I look forward to reading your applications, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.